and use that fear as fuel. Everyone got that? Use the fear as fuel. Say that for me.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast mini-series on fear. We've brought in fear expert Patrick Sweeney to help you take your fears and learn to use them as fuel. Stay tuned for a special Spartan Edge offer at the end of this episode.
Hey, I'm Patrick Sweeney. Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast on fear. Today we're going to talk about decision making. Most people don't realize that fear comes into play in nearly every decision we make. You might be a person who got asked to do a presentation, but you really don't like to do public speaking. You might have a friend who said, hey, you should sign up for one of these Spartan races and do it with me. You probably have a whole series of decisions you're either avoiding or making poorly because of fear. There are only two ways you make decisions, either out of fear or out of opportunity. Almost every time you make a decision out of fear, it leads to regret. But every time you make a decision based on opportunity, it leads to growth, fulfillment, success, and happiness. The thing is, most people don't realize when you're making a decision based on fear, because we have a system in our brain called the working memory. The working memory is kind of like a smartphone. It's like an iPhone or an Android phone. You can have all the applications in the world on that phone, but you can only use one at a time. When we get scared or when something ignites our amygdala, that little gland in the base of our brain that handles the fight, flight, or freeze response, it takes over the working memory. And what app it puts up there is fight, flee, or freeze. And that's why you see people oftentimes at work, when they're all trying to work and make their company better or do something, will start getting in an argument because their amygdala is activated. They're not making a good decision. They're making a knee-jerk decision because they're getting rejected from the tribe. Spartan's all about the tribe, but we don't need that survival thing anymore. Right? That limbic system, the brain, our primitive brain, is running a 2-million-year-old piece of software. And what that tries to get us to do is just pass our genes on to the next generation. So anything that threatens us, threatens our ability to procreate, threatens our ability to be nice and safe in the tribe, it's going to react to. In today's modern society, that doesn't serve us well at all. We need the working memory to be completely clear to make a good decision, so you can make a decision based on opportunity. So let's go back to you getting asked about speaking for your company. Let's say you're a software developer. The last thing you want to do is speak in front of public. In fact, you're terrified. Think about it from an opportunity perspective. If you become an engineer who can explain the type of work you're doing, who can explain the code you wrote, why you did it, and you can educate people, you become way more valuable. You start to open up doors immediately that weren't open to you. Same thing if you do a Spartan race. If you've got someone who's trying to convince you to jump in and do a beast race or even a sprint race and you're afraid of it, think about the downside. What happens if you don't do it? You miss out on the opportunity to train, to be with your friends some more, to meet some really cool and interesting new people. So anytime you're making a decision based on fear, it's going to lead to regret. Anytime you make that decision based on opportunity, it's going to lead to growth and happiness. But to do that, you've got to recognize when that fear is starting to take over. And the way to recognize it, the easiest way to recognize an amygdala hijacking, as I call it, when that amygdala is trying to make the decision, is you'll feel changes in your body. You'll start to feel butterflies in your stomach. You'll start to notice your shoulders are getting tight or you're clenching your jaw. I call these things your fear tells. Every poker player has some subconscious reaction that they don't know that tells whether they've got a good hand or a bad hand, and really good poker players understand other people's tells. The best thing you can do to start to understand when the amygdala is trying to hijack is get to know your own tells. When you start to feel any of those physiological changes, then what's going to happen is you're going to make a decision based on fear unless you say, stop, I'm going to think about all the consequences of this first decision. From that, what happens to the second decision, then a third decision, and you think beyond just fighting or fleeing. That's really the key to it. So if you start to feel your tells, and a great way to learn how to feel your tells is do something that scares yourself every day. If you know that riding a roller coaster, or if you know that public speaking gives you that feeling of fear, then get up today and make a toast at lunch and notice what happens in your body. Really try and feel those sensations. Then when you get an email from an angry client or your boss or a girlfriend, and all of a sudden you feel those reactions, don't respond yet. Just take a couple deep breaths, go through some of the things I taught in the other podcasts, get your mind together, and make a decision based on opportunity, not a decision based on fear. That's how you learn how to make great decisions, and just knowing those are the two ways to make decisions will help change your life. I'm Patrick Sweeney. Thank you for joining us on the Spartan Up Fear podcast. And don't forget, we've got tons of other great experts here who can teach everything from nutrition to training to leadership. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends about it, and we'll see you next time.
Want to learn more about fear? The fear guru, Patrick Sweeney, is one of our Spartan Edge experts. Spartan Edge is an immersive online education experience built to help you live like a Spartan every day in every way and in everything you do. With courses like plant-based nutrition, fear as fuel, Spartanology, and Spartan Boot Camp. If you listen to this podcast, we know you've made a commitment to yourself to be the best that you can be, and we've made a commitment to help you with that. We want to give you access to the Edge curriculum for 1 year for free. This is a special offer just for our Spartan Up listeners. To access the courses, just go to learn.spartan.com and enter the code PODCAST.